When Toyota first launched the GR Supra in 2020, a lot of enthusiasts were really upset over the fact that it didn't have a 6-speed manual transmission because every sports car should have 3 pedals on the floor. Now, of course, the Supra is built in collaboration with BMW in Austria by Magna Steyr, and they all come with a ZF 8-speed torque converter automatic that is actually very, very good. And we've driven several Supras on the channel before, but finally for 2023, the Supra has an available 6-speed manual transmission. And that is what this 2023 Nitro Yellow features. So let's talk all about what this Supra is, and then we will get it out on some good back roads and see if the manual makes this car any better to drive than the automatic. This is Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake, and this is the 2023 Toyota Supra. Okay, so what do you get for 2023 with the Toyota Supra in general, and then what happens when you pick the manual transmission versus the automatic? Well, first of all, for 2023, all Supras get some revised little bits in the form of shock tuning and software updates and those sorts of things. They changed the traction control to help you get through curves a little bit better. They did a little bit of little tweaking, but those are all pretty minor updates in the grand scheme of things. Now, as far as the manual transmission is concerned, it can only be had on the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder. So that's the only way you're going to get it. If you want the 4-cylinder, it's a great car, but you're not going to get it with the 6-speed. So you will only have it with the 3-liter inline 6, 382 horsepower as in the couple years prior. And Toyota calls this an IMT, an intelligent manual transmission. They're using the same terminology as they have with other manual transmission cars that they've sold recently, and IMT basically means it has rev matching. So that's what you get there. You can turn the rev matching off if you don't like it, but it is on by default. Now, of course, this car being built heavily in collaboration with BMW, the transmission in here is BMW sourced. This is something that BMW would pair with one of their 6-cylinders because, surprise, surprise, the B58 up front is a BMW inline 6. Now, Toyota claims that they actually did a lot to change the shift feel and how the transmission actually responds to you as a driver. So we'll talk a little bit more about that once we're on the road here, but they claim that they had a lot of input there in how the transmission actually feels, which is nice because you can take some of the mechanicals, keep them, and then add your own little touches. So I love that. The other thing that Toyota did, given this is a 6-speed, not an 8-speed like the automatic, the gears are going to be longer. They wanted the car to feel just as snappy as the automatics did, so they changed the rear end gearing. So this also has a limited slip differential like the automatic cars, but instead of a 3:15 ratio, it's a 3:46. So again, we'll talk about that a little bit more on the drive, but that is, again, something that can help keep the car feeling fairly snappy. Otherwise, pretty minimal as far as what they changed in the cabin to accommodate the manual. The transmission tunnel and everything seems to fit fairly similarly. The only thing that they really did was they moved the iDrive controller. They're going to hate that I called it iDrive, but it's iDrive. They moved the iDrive knob over to accommodate the manual transmission and give you room to shift and have your arm in the way and everything like that. So those are the differences. Otherwise, like I said, you can get this on any of the 6-cylinder cars. This is a 3.0 premium. Window sticker comes in right around $59,000. With all that, let's get on the road and talk about how this manual transmission feels behind the wheel. All right, so let's talk about driving the 2023 Toyota Supra with the 6-speed manual. So first of all, I've driven a bunch of these with the automatic. I really like the ZF 8-speed automatic. I think it's really smart, and I think that the automatic Supra is the better car. Like, full stop, it's the better one if you care about just going the fastest everywhere, whether that's on a racetrack or through turns like on roads where we are now, although I've got a Subaru Legacy in front of me going 38 miles an hour. But the ZF is the better transmission for the car. I think it fits the nature of the engine better. But if you want driver engagement and driving pleasure, you cannot get the same experience that you get with a manual from any automatic. It's just a different thing. And this is a really good transmission, and it also pairs nicely to the car and to the B58 inline 6. So why do I say that? Well, first things first, this is all BMW-y, you know, it's more or less a Z4, but Toyota did a lot to the manual gearbox to make it fit their needs and feel the way they wanted it to feel. And it feels really good. So it's not kind of as rubbery as a BMW gearbox tends to be. And it, let's see if I can talk and go through these turns at the same time, maybe. Not as rubbery, nice and notchy, easy to deal with. The clutch is nice and progressive, not too light, not too firm. I've driven this car in city traffic a little bit as well, and it does a really nice job there. You know, not a pain at all in traffic. And then this is just easy. There's something that you get out of, you know, running a gear all the way out to redline and upshifting yourself that is just hard to beat. And then when you go for a downshift, this has the auto rev matching that is just spot on. You can turn it off. I like it on, to be totally honest. Can I make it ahead of this Lexus? Yes. Hello. So it's just easy. And I really, really like how they've got the whole thing set up. The auto rev matching, like I said, great. Turn it off if you don't want it on. The ratios are nice. The clutch pedal is great. This is nice. I think the automatic Supra is the better one as car. This is the better one if you care about driving engagement, by far. Really, really like it. Otherwise, the engine, you know, the nice thing about the engine is that it just is so, it makes power all the way to redline. It doesn't feel like a turbo motor, which I love. 382 horsepower, and you know, there's no turbo lag. You're not waiting for anything to spool. And then, you know, it makes power all the way up to, say hi to my friends. It makes power all the way up to the red line, and it just feels good the whole time doing it. And that's not something that a lot of turbo cars can do. I just love this car on back roads too. I'm in sport mode. This has adaptive dampers, they all do. And the car is stiff in the city. It's a little too stiff in some cases, but not in a bad way. It fits, you know, fits the characteristic of these roads just fine. And it's just easy to drive pretty quickly. It's just so nice. The exhaust, everything about it, nothing is like overwhelming. It's just good. Okay, back to how this makes you feel. So it's, you know, it's slower everywhere because you're shifting it yourself, but I love having to do the pedal dance. It's so good. Suspension, like I said, great on these sorts of roads, a little stiff everywhere else. The steering is pretty good too. Toyota apparently recalibrated the traction control system for the 2023 cars to help with power application when you're like on an off-camber turn and one of the wheels has more grip than the other. I can't say I notice it working, but the car puts power down very well. And these roads, it rained a little bit earlier. The roads are slick. Well, I shouldn't say that. The roads are damp. They're not slick, but we have plenty of grip here. But the car is responding very nicely to everything. And yeah, this feels so nice. I don't miss the automatic here. It's easier. This is taking more work out of me to drive this as hard as I could. The auto, I took the auto to Tail of the Dragon last year. That one's easier to do this in because there's less that you're dealing with as a person providing inputs, but this is still easy enough to hustle. Otherwise, I think they retuned the steering feel a little bit as well. I don't know if I would say feels any different again, just like the 2022s I also thought were good cars. This is so my car, and I just adore this. You know, you get those cars that feel like they were made for you and your needs and what you want, and this is one. It is very imperfect. They still have the wind buffeting. I think it rides too stiff in certain cases. Like I said, in the city, it's not really that great. It's kind of, you know, there's just bits about it that are a little funky. There's no hatch release on the body of the car. You have to use the door button or the button on the key. But like, once you do this and you're in these environments, this is just so fabulous. And the manual makes it better because you're working the car that much harder yourself. This is what they should have had from day one. I know they probably had reasons why they didn't do this from day one, but they should have had this from day one. Because A, it would have quelled all the haters who were just, oh, it's not, you know, not a sports car or whatever. It would have quelled all them. And granted, most of the people who are hating on this stuff would wait to buy it until it's 20 years old anyway, but they should have done it from day one. And this is just fantastic. And the rest of the car, thankfully, backs up what this is writing. You know, this is writing a check. The car can cash it because it has to. And that's, you know, when the bones are good, everything else is fine. And the bones of this car have been good since day one. Can be a little twitchy, you know, the wheelbase is short, all that, but for back roads like this is a phenomenal car. It's quiet enough, it's comfortable enough, it's everything enough that you can also do road trips in it and it won't beat you up. It is tight in here, of course. The cabin is kind of tight. The luggage space is kind of tight. You know, honestly, I think the GR86 is perhaps a little more spacious overall inside, but there is something about the big long hood, the big long inline six, the proportions of it and everything. This is a neat car, and there's an emotional appeal to this, and I'm so glad they decided to bring the stick, and I'm also so glad that they Toyota-fied it and made it not feel so BMW-y, because despite this being more or less a BMW Z4 underneath, this feels kind of not BMW-y in certain ways, and I also don't care what logo is on it. This is just a good vehicle to drive. This is engaging, and it's engaging without being too raw, to where you can't daily drive it. You know, you could drive this to work every day and be fine, and then go do what I just did and also be fine, and then go to a racetrack and be fine. There are very few cars where you can do all of that in that way and get away with it and enjoy it. So this is fab. I'm so pleased with it. Kudos to everyone involved in bringing the manual to this car. Thank you for doing it. I'm sure there was some internal boardroom fighting and discussions and sternly worded emails about why we should or shouldn't do this. And for those who are the Save the Manuals crowd, thank you for fighting the good fight. For the rest of you watching this at home, if you can swing it price-wise, because these are not affordable for everyone, but if you can do it, if you're big on the Save the Manuals thing, you need to buy a car new with a stick shift. If you can make that happen, whether it's this or a GR86 or something that's not a Toyota with a stick shift, we've got fewer and fewer of them, and the only way to keep manufacturers building them in ever-tightening emissions regulations and everything, these things are a nightmare for them to do with emissions regulations versus an automatic. It's why there's rev hang, it's why there's all these things that we all hate as enthusiasts for how they drive. So if you want one, you need to buy one, and not wait till 20 years from now, because 20 years from now we may not have any of these left. So do what you can now, otherwise we'll be saving these for the rest of y'all, and that's that. All right, that's it for this review of the 2023 Toyota Supra with 6-speed manual transmission. Thank you so much for coming along. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe right on YouTube. Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Out Motorsports. If you'd like to join an ever-growing community of LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, head over to outmotorsports.com. We've got a whole community over there. We would love to have you join us, both online, at a people who are so excited to be your new best friends, and we've got some events coming up around the country from now through the rest of 2023. We would love to have you for any and all of those. Till next time, please stay safe, be well, see you again soon.